Hey everyone, we're Day One Update. My name is Gummel, and I'm joined by
I'm Goldthorpe.
Eric couldn't make it today because he's too good for Pokemon. Anyways, we had the Nintendo Direct that happened. I don't know when this is coming up. I think a week ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Where they pretty much went all over pretty much everything Pokemon. It was literally a Pokemon Direct.
Yeah, the one non Sword and Shield expansion news thing was Mystery Dungeon coming back.
Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team XD, I think.
We're going to tell you flat out, this is not what this podcast is about. It's going to be about the expansions.
Yeah. So they had, I'll just talk about it. So there's Mystery Dungeon Rescue Team DX, which I think is, I'm not too sure, but from what it looks like, it was a remake of the Red Team, Blue Team Mystery Dungeon, original ones.
I think so. Are they making two different releases for Mystery Dungeon or
No,
just the one? Just the one?
Just one from what I've seen.
Yeah, I kind of got my hopes up because when you sent that message, like, oh, this is what just happened in the Direct, before I actually woke up and watched it, in my brain, it was the Colosseum games. Oh. Like, you know, the one, the sequel had Shadow Lugia and stuff like that. Yeah. I thought it was like an RPG, like more RPG-esque RPG.
No.
And then I saw the trailer.
It was Mystery Dungeon. But the main chunk of the Pokemon Direct, I'm going to call it from near here on out, was the expansion pass, which includes 2 DLC packs, which is the Isle of Armor and the Crown of Tundra. Isle of Armor coming out June 2020, and the other one, Crown of Tundra, coming out fall 2020.
And we have very differing opinions on this. Gurkamel, as somebody who is super into Pokemon and bought both of Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I, who was interested in it and was so disappointed by the pre-release news that I did not buy it. Yes. So let's start with your impressions.
So from what I know, Pokemon Sword and Shield are going to be getting expansion passes, which include 2 parts, and those 2 parts are part of this one expansion pass, which is going to cost $30.
30 USD.
30
so
USD.
About 40 Canadian.
Yeah. And you'll get the Isle of Armor and Crown of Tundra in this expansion pass. But you will have to pay twice to get it for Shield as well. Like, let's say you bought it for Sword, you're going to have to pay again to get it for Shield.
So, yeah, and that's the crux of my issue. That it's not the one expansion for both owners of both. But, well, you know what? Let's talk about what is included in the actual expansion pack itself.
So, from what I know, the Isle of Armor and Crown of Tundra are basically going to add 2 new, I think, maps to it. Crown of Tundra being more exploration, and the Isle of Armor being more tombs and stuff like that, or something of that nature. And there are going to be 2 new legendaries coming. So, if you guys haven't seen them, you can check us. You could check our Twitter at Day One Updates, where I posted a bunch of images and news about the Pokemon Direct. Shameless plug there. But for Isle of Armor, we'll have the new legendary, which is called Urshifu, which seems to be like a fighting type character. This fighting type Pokemon, this Pokemon will have 2 separate styles. So they say 2 separate styles. This is not going to be 2 separate Pokemon. It's going to be one.
Like a stance switching, or
I think so, or something like that. So it's going to have one pre-evolution Pokemon, which is called Cubchoo, which is going to evolve into Urshifu, who's going to have either 2 different styles, apparently depending on how you raise it, which I've read somewhere, or it could be a switching style like Aegislash.
Oh, I just got so Cubfu, obviously, because it's a cub. Then I was Kung Fu.
Yeah,
but Urshifu, like Shifu, like Master
Shifu. Yeah. So it's going to have a single strike style, which is going to be with fighting and dark type, or rapid strike style, which is fighting and water type. It will have a Gigantamax, and the Gigantamax, or 2 of these forms, will have 2 different looks and unique looks to them. And this Pokemon is apparently going to be given to you by the character you meet in the Isle of Armor. So it's not a catchable Pokemon. And from what they said in the Direct, it sounded like it was a legendary.
I don't think it's a legendary, actually.
From what they said, it's like, oh, we're going to have another legendary. And it seemed like...
Yeah, the legendary is the dumb-looking
That's
brain.
For the second one.
Yeah, I don't think it is a legendary. I'm looking it up right now.
But I remember watching the Pokemon Direct, and I'm like, oh, there's going to be a new legendary. And they started talking about this Pokemon. So, like, I'm not too sure.
I think they're like new Pokemon with new legendaries, and then they started with the Pokemon.
Maybe. But this Pokemon is apparently going to be given to you by one of the characters you meet in the Isle of Armor. And then we have the legendary, which we know is a legendary for the Crown of Tundra.
You can tell because it looks dumb as hell.
Yeah, the Crown of Tundra is going to be like on a snowy type of island. It's going to be a bit more based on exploration from they said like 20 times in the actual direct. But the Pokemon's name is Calyrex, which is a psychic grass type. It's literally a hot air balloon with sort of type of weasel attached to the hot air balloon with long legs. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Not really much to say on it. Not much is known about this legendary other than the fact that it is a legendary. But at least they're adding new Pokemons. A new type of casual Pokemon. Because Sword and Shield's main issue was that there was no post-game legendaries to catch after the main story.
Yeah, and so there's also 200 more Pokemon. That's I'm assuming there's, let's say, 120 that are shared between both expansions, and let's say 40 each that are exclusive to Sword and Shield.
There's not that many exclusives. There's not even that many exclusives, I think, in
base game?
Sword and Shield.
Well, yeah, no, that's because they started low. I'm talking about percentage-wise.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 40 Pokemon.
Well, no, yeah, 40 Pokemon, because that would be less than 40%. Like, when you're adding 200 Pokemon to the total roster of Sword and Shield, 40% would be like, what, 10, 20% of the Pokemon, maybe less?
I think there's that many. Okay.
Yeah, but like, you know, my point is that 200 Pokemon that they're adding to these expansions, not all of them are going to be in Sword. So when you're getting the Sword expansion, you're not getting all 200 because some of those 200 are going to be exclusive to the Shield.
It's basically the same thing that they do with their second sequel releases that they have been doing recently. Ultra Sun and Moon 2.
Yeah, but
Black and White 2.
But there is one bigger issue. We'll go look more into what they're adding to it. Yeah, so both of these areas are like wild areas, so like camera control and stuff like that, right? You can trade with, like, if you don't have the expansion, but somebody you know has the expansion, you could still trade with them.
Yeah,
there's that. There's some new Pokemon Home details, which they confirmed it's going to be a paid service and stuff.
It's releasing in February 2020 as well, so a month from now. We'll be able to transfer all your some of your old Pokemon into Sword and Shield.
There's going to be exclusive character from Sword and Shield, like whatever new rival character or whatever is going to be different. Why? No reason, just to make it different and make you want to buy 2 different games. They're going to do the exact same thing in the story anyway.
It's literally the sequel games, but in DLC expansion versions.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't make sense to me that they'd like split the character itself. Because that character who gives you the Galarian Slowpoke or whatever
is different in both.
Yeah, but why?
I don't know.
Because those characters are exclusive between one and the other.
That's how it is for the base game as well. There's different gym leaders for different.
Yeah, but that's gym leaders. Those are opponents you can fight, which is really interesting. Whereas this one is just like they'll perform the same function in the story. It's just like
we don't know that.
It's just like what's the leader of Team Skull? Guzma. In Sun he's Guzma, but in Moon the leader of Team Skull is Moonsma. There, what's the difference between them?
But we don't know what function they're gonna have in the story with each other.
I can't imagine they're gonna be too different because they can't make them too different because they're still functionally the same game.
Even the gym trainers, they're pretty much play the same function. They were gym.
Yeah,
they had different types.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, my biggest concern with this expansion release style is the fact that it's 2 different expansions. At first, it seems very consumer friendly. Where it's like, all right, you don't have to buy a new thing. However, it ultimately isn't that because you still have to spend more money to get the total story. Before you could just wait for the third one. Nintendo games don't go on sale, so
not everyone buys both games though. This is the first time I've bought both games as well.
No, I'm not talking about both. I'm talking about the pre-gen and like the initial release and the 3rd gen release. So like
they've always done that, which is kind of like the director's cuts of the original.
Yeah, I'll just refer to it as the director's cuts then. The director's cut, a lot of people would just wait for the director's cut. Now you can't wait for the director's cut. You got to get the original and then the director's cut, which while it benefits the people who bought the first game, people who bought the first game already knew what they were signing on for. They were expecting a 3rd director's cut, and they were going to be ready to either play it or say, no, I'm fine with the first one. People who are waiting for the director's cut kind of screwed because they have to buy the game at full price because Pokemon games do not go on sale, and then pay an extra 50% on top of it to get the full director's cut content, all of which is post game content now. Because before director's cut had content in like throughout the entire game, not just at the end of the game. You know,
Well, people have been complaining about the director's cut thing for the longest time before as well. Like, why are they doing a third release again after the game? Why would you have to buy another game? But this time they're doing an expansion version.
Yeah, but it's just so damn expensive. 50% of the cost of the base game, which will not go on sale, and the DLC will not go on sale. And if you're one of the few super loyal people who already gave Nintendo extra money to buy Sword and Shield, like you, guess what? You're screwed. You can only buy one expansion or pay price of a full game for both expansions. It is ludicrous. And like that's not even I'm not even touching on the fact that, hey, we had a bunch of Pokemon cut from the game for a bunch of reasons that we made up in interviews. Oh, here's 200 more Pokemon that you got to pay for that you had before all the time. Because they Masuda straight up said in interviews, no, we are not adding more Pokemon later. This is what you'll get. And then come here, hey, $200 or 200 Pokemon for 50% more price.
Pretty sure that the
garbage.
fact that they said we're adding more Pokemon now is only because people complain a lot about the fact
it is
that
100% planned from the get-go. Because the 200 Pokemon in the span of like a few months, they did not just start developing Pokemon.
That we already
They
knew
had
the
this plan.
reasons for not
Yeah.
adding those Pokemon is complete horseshit.
Yeah,
But
that makes this
that doesn't
worse.
mean that they're just like, all right, let's just freaking throw in these Pokemon for them to make them more excited. I
No,
guess. I don't know.
it was straight up like when people were complaining and they were asked in interviews, they were just smugly saying, "We have no plans. We know we're gonna charge you, but we're gonna hold that close to our chest." And just, it is so scumbag. Like you would never see this from Nintendo like themselves. This is 100% a Game Freak / the Pokemon Company nonsense. It is disgusting. I hate
The
it.
thing with that Pokemon is that either way, it's one of the biggest gaming franchise ever created.
Yeah, no,
They're gonna make money off of this no matter what.
With all the issues of Sword and Shield, it still made sold more copies than any other Pokemon game ever.
But
People will just buy it mindlessly.
Sword and Shield was still a fantastic game.
I mean, yeah, but it's just they had so much wrong with it, and so many people were just like they kept buying it. It's hard to explain without going on a rant of the original game itself. We're gonna talk about the expansion, but Switch Pokemon games could have been so much more.
It could have been so much more, but
And now they never will be because they're like, well, why do we have to put extra effort and make them utilize the full power of a console if people will just buy it when it's a up-res 3DS game? Right? Like Pokemon, the Game Freak and the Pokemon Company have no incentive to actually push the hardware to the limit anymore because they sold.
never had incentive. They never pushed the 3DS to the limit. They never pushed
Yeah,
the
but
DS
here's
to
the thing:
limit.
if this game sold poorly, they would have been like, well, now that we're upcharging for the price of a console game instead of the $40 it used to be, maybe we should, add more content and make it worthy of a console title.
If someone still bought the game and they still 100% full on enjoyed it, I don't think that's a really bad purchase on that person's side.
Well,
you can't
yeah.
just say they're mindlessly buying a fucking game. They're still enjoying the goddamn game.
I think that argument only works if we didn't have the precedent of here are games on the 3DS like Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon for $40 or $50 USD, whichever one, and they added the console surcharge, but a lot of the features are just same old Pokemon. Not really.
I get that, but if I bought the game and if I didn't like the game because of those reasons, then okay, that makes sense. But I bought the game, I played it beginning to end, and I loved the game from beginning to end.
Well,
that to me is my money going into some place that I actually enjoyed.
What if Pokemon just decided, hey, Pokemon Sword and Shield would cost, I don't know, 100 USD each for no reason, and you get the game and you enjoy it? Yeah, it's great, but it has no.
If the game
has no right to be 100
was
USD.
not worth the enjoyment to the money, then of course I'm going to be annoyed.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Enjoyment to the money. You personally think it was that enjoyment to the money.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people thought it was worth it, but so many people bought it in the first place. Nintendo only cares about the initial purchase.
Games, I still put a lot of hours into the game, which make up for that money, and that money goes into a regular
Yeah,
game
it's
that's
just-
only 20 hours long.
It's just like they could have fixed like it's
the
just
amount of hours make more
they
sense.
could have fixed so much of this if they were just honest before the game came out.
They could have
Hey,
fixed a lot of things. I'm not saying that. They could have fixed a lot of issues with the game, which was pre-making it and taking out a lot of Pokemon. But I don't think it's right to say, okay, you guys are all just mindlessly buying this game without
okay,
looking
fine.
into it.
Yeah, fair. That was harsher than it should have been probably. My point still stands. Nintendo now, or not Nintendo, but Game Freak has no incentive to actually push the Switch to the hardware limit and actually make it like significantly more worth that $60 than the $40 3DS games. They have no incentive. They don't care now because people will just buy them. And this expansion price pass pricing is the exact epitome of what I mean. Pay $30 on each game, not the one pass that works for both different games, but two different titles, and then you get some of your Pokemon back. Even though we promised and we were fighting tooth and nail that you would never see them again until the next generation of Pokemon.
I get
games.
that what they're doing is scummy, but the game overall I vastly enjoyed, and I could see how the expansion pass is a thing, but for me, me being a Pokemon player, I bought in the original games and then I bought the director's cut. This is literally just a cheaper director's cut for me.
And to be fair, I could go on a very similar rant about Atlas and how they're treating the Persona 5 DLC and stuff like that, and that is way scummier than Pokemon Game Freak. I mean, I still love Persona 5, but oh my god, they are like some companies are just scumbags. But like, well, okay, tell me what else is in this expansion that you feel like is worth paying, not 30 but 60 USD, because if you want the full content, it would be 60 USD, even if a lot of it is redundant. 60 USD.
You're gonna keep pushing that point.
$90 Canadian, 60 USD,
for both of them, which I'm not gonna buy both of them. I'm just gonna buy one and trade.
or $80 Canadian.
That's the point of it.
But that's actually one more thing. You bought both games so you can have your own collection without needing to trade. Mm-hmm. But now you're screwed out because you can't do the same thing with this DLC expansion. You have to rely on trading in the first place. So what's the point of getting Shield if you were just going to get expansion of Sword, for example?
Sword and Shield, I bought both of them because I want to play both of them. And most of the games have played both of them, but in different ways. I haven't bought them.
So why did you want to play Sword and Shield, but not the Sword expansion and Shield expansion? Why are you deciding to only go one route with the expansion, but not one route with both of the base games?
Depends. I have to see if I'm going to get both expansions or not. Most likely with me, I'm probably going to end up getting both. But for this game, like, there's not that many Pokemon that I would have to trade, so it's not that big of an issue. It's not too difficult to trade. With Sword and Shield, I originally got it because on 3DS it was very difficult to trade before.
Unless, of course, Galarian Zapdos is exclusive to Shield and Galarian Moltres is exclusive to Sword.
That would be stupid.
That could happen.
That would be stupid.
That could happen.
Because the Legendary Trio birds should not be split up by regions, by games. And they either with the dogs or the birds.
It will
be.
be.
It would be stupid if they do that.
It will be.
So they had the trailers for both expansions where they kind of gave sneak peeks and stuff where they didn't really talk
actually,
about.
you know what it is? It's not just going to be... It might not be Legendary Rigs, but it definitely is going to be the Squirtle and the Bulbasaur. Because we do know that at least...
That's going to be split up.
Yeah, because we saw Gigantamax... That's what we call Gigantamax?
Mm-hmm.
A Gigantamax Blastoise in one of the concept art. So Bulbasaur will obviously show up. I think those two will be...
They showed
specific.
Gigantamax, Bulbasaur, and
Venusaur. You mean?
Yeah. Venusaur and...
Okay, I must have missed Venusaur because I remember seeing Blastoise. I don't remember seeing Venusaur. I think those will be separated by version.
Probably.
Yeah.
Because there's two of them.
Yeah. Charizard. Everybody's got a Charizard now.
So they showed these three birds without really much context to it, but from their looks, they look pretty much like Zapdos, Articuno, and Moltres, but they kind of look different.
So these pictures are the epitome of old design Pokemon versus new design Pokemon, where they added so many so many things to the point where they're over designed compared to their original one. Or if you got used to these type, you look at the old one, you'll think, oh, the old ones are under designed. You know, it's just, I guess, whatever you started with and grew up with. But to me, when I see this and I compare it to Moltres, the Moltres made more sense because it looked like a bird instead of like a bird shaped face. It looked like it was like on fire because the entire body was the fire color scheme, whereas this is just something like a little over designed. And if you go to Zapdos, like, we'll skip Articuno because Articuno I think is a big difference. But Zapdos has like the 2-layer colors. He has the weird chicken legs with the stripes on them. And
I'm pretty sure he's going to end up being a flightless bird from the looks of the different concept arts.
oh wow, oh my god, a flightless bird. Oh, poor Zapdos.
Well, if he
He's done dirty. But yeah, you're totally right.
They're most likely going to end up getting different typings. So a lot of people are assuming that Zapdos might be a fighting type, considering that he's a flightless bird, and the ostrich just have really strong kicks. So it'll probably be among something of those
fighting
lines.
lightning.
We don't know. They could drop.
Yeah.
They could drop the flying type and make a fighting lightning, or they could keep the flying type and make a fighting flying. We don't have no idea.
Okay.
Right. But a lot of people are assuming they might drop the flying typing. So Moltres as well. Like it seems like he's like a fire dark or fire ghost. Or a fire ghost type with the black and the different.
I could be ghost
dark
flying.
colors.
They'll keep flying, but I think they'll say these are like ghost fires or ghost flames.
Could be. And then we have Articuno, which has a very
I don't know if I love it or I hate it.
like swagged up style for Articuno.
Everything
Those massive eyeglasses look very interesting.
The color scheme is not too over designed. It's like on the cusp of it, but it's generally okay. And then you get to the glasses, which I don't know. It looks cool in a dumb way.
Yeah.
But because it's like one of the only Pokemon that are like that. Actually, you know what? I think I like it in the same way I like that Apple Dragon Pokemon that like it turns into a jet that shoots out smaller versions of itself as missiles. Because that's so dumb and ludicrous that I love it.
So this one, it looks like an ice type, but with psychic or something like.
All three of these legendary birds make me feel like they should just add Pokemon with third legendary typing because it wouldn't break the balance. It wouldn't break the balance too much because you also add on to the weaknesses. And as long as you're smart about what specific Pokemon get third typing, not everybody, but what very specific Pokemon get third typing, then you can kind of balance it out with like, all right, they gain all these strengths, but also all these weaknesses.
Yeah, but they also do change up a lot of the combat stuff.
Not particularly. How so?
Because with the two typings, it's pretty easy to figure out like, okay, this cancels out that.
Yeah, but in the new Pokemon games, doesn't it say beside the attack, this is super effective, this is not effective?
Yeah, but like in terms of setting up the weakness and strengths or defensive weaknesses for Pokemon, three typings would be like, okay, this flying, electricity. Oh wait, flying and electricity and ground. Electric cancels out the ground. Wait, what am I saying? What was it? Okay, if you have a ground type and then you have flying, so electricity doesn't affect ground or flying. Mm-hmm. No, electricity doesn't affect ground, but it affects flying. But the ground type overpowers that one to make it pretty much zero. Or if you have like a one that's super effective and then ineffective type, and then you have a third one that's like super effective as well. Like how does that stack? Does it make it normal? Does it make it 1.5? Like it's kind of weird.
Well, as it stands now, it's normal. Like if you have two conflicting things,
it makes it normal. But when you add a third in there,
then it gets pushed that one way because then you have the two weaknesses versus the one.
That's what I'm saying. It would trip to like 1.5,
or either 1.5 or just regular weakness.
But that's what the two make. That the third one doesn't make any sense. Then third one doesn't change anything.
Well, it depends on the elements that's added. I'm trying to think of. Okay, so
like
let's say
there's two super effectives and one that cancels, and the one that's not effective at all, one that's not very effective.
Okay, well, what happens if ground is not affected by thunder at all, right?
No.
So what happens if a ground flying or ground water is hit by thunder shock? It's not affected. It's bounces
from
off.
What I remember, I think it's not effective.
Okay,
because ground is straight up zero. I think.
Okay, in that case, because it's all multiplication, so if it's straight up zero, then it won't affect. So let's say the Pokemon is water, flying, and ground, and it's hit by thunder shock. It's still going to be not effective, even though it has the two weaknesses against it, because the ground is times zero.
Ground is
because that's the benefit of the ground. It's just immune to lightning, right?
Well, let me check again because I am forgetting a lot of things.
But alternatively, so let's say a water flying is going to be double effective by thunder. A water flying, what's resistant to electric but not? Let's say another electric. So water flying electric, that gets hit by an electric. The electric and the water will cancel each other out to make it normal. But because it also has flying, it'll make it 1 times weakness instead of 2 times weakness. Get it?
Yeah, but it's just
I just feel like, no, for legendary birds, for very specific few Pokemon, you don't have to be the whole, oh, this Pokemon is on fire, but it's not fire typing because we can only have 2 typing. You know? It's dumb. Like, if you go on Moltres right now, like, how are you going to tell me that's not a flying and a fire?
Well, I think they've had bird types. They had flying Pokemon that aren't flying.
Like, if they had bird types that fly that are not flying,
yeah,
that's just dumb. That is just dumb. And you're just, at that point, limiting, like, what kind of Pokemon you can make and stuff like that.
Because
when somebody sees a flying bird, they'll think
Blaziken.
He's not a flying bird.
Exactly, but he's a bird.
But he's not a flying bird.
The bird.
It's not a flying bird. All right, next features. What do we got?
So so like they showed a few Pokemon that are coming back. So they had Volcarona, Kingdra, Dedenne, Lycanroc, Aurorus, Nidoran, Celio, and Garchomp. Garchomp being the big one because a lot of people are asking for Garchomp.
Yeah, well, hey, you want this Pokemon? Pay for it.
Yeah. And they're adding new Reggie legendaries. I think these are coming to the Isle of Tundra, and all the Reggie legendaries are coming back too. They did show all the other Reggie legendaries as well.
I'm assuming these are just separate Pokemon in general, and not just like Galarian versions of a Reggie Pokemon. Okay,
they seem to be separate. It doesn't make sense to make Galarian forms of Reggies because Reggies have so many different versions. Like all Reggies are different typings.
Yeah.
So there's this one that looks kind of like electric type, in a way.
Electric water is my guess. I don't know.
It's an interesting one. It seems like it has like 2 type of wings with electricity coming out, and it has the Reggie eyes as normal and 2 electric feet. And then this is the other one. So I don't know. This one looks dragon or ghost.
So its head is technically those eyes, right?
Yeah.
And those are the dragon head looks like it's an arm. Or the other way around. I mean, the arm looks like a dragon head. So yeah, Dragon Rock. Are they all rock type?
Not that I know of. Let me look it up.
Reggie Ice, Reggie Rock, Reggie Steel. Those are the 3 original, right?
Yep.
Okay. So not all of them are started as rock. Okay.
So Reggie Ice. I'm gonna just look up Reggie Ice because that's the first one that shows up. Reggie Ice is just pure ice. They're pure forms.
Okay. So this is going to be a pure dragon, I'm assuming.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
With the dragon head, it kind of seems like it'll be a dragon. And then we have all the other old Reggies coming back, and they look like they're going to be in tombs, which makes sense with the Reggies.
The old Reggies are coming back too. Okay.
Yeah, they showed all the old Reggies. And then we have the starters. So we have Blastoise and Venusaur.
Oh my god, that looks terrible.
So it's Venusaur with a bowl cut.
That looks awful.
It looks weird.
Oh my god, they did him dirty. the first line of Pokemon in the Pokedex, and they do him dirty.
And he has... Yeah, I don't know how he could see out of those.
It's dumb.
But
it's so dumb.
That's Venusaur there.
Go next. I don't like a lot of the Galarian versions. This is okay. I would have preferred just like a bigger cannon like his Mega Evolution. Mm-hmm. But this looks like a tower or like a fortress of a bunch of cannons, which is still pretty dope.
Yeah, it looks... The Blastoise... I don't think you could do Blastoise wrong. Blastoise is just a cool looking Pokemon.
Yeah, I would have preferred just a bigger cannon.
Yeah.
Straight up. The Gigantamax isn't the Blastoise, it's the cannon on his back.
You see the Mega Evolution of Blastoise?
It's the third cannon.
It has bigger cannons, and it's the third one.
Doesn't he also have cannons on his hands as well? Yeah. That's great. It's great. Who doesn't want a turtle with cannons?
So we also got Gigantamax versions of the starters.
Which I didn't know they didn't have. I just assumed that they would have Gigantamax versions.
So Rillaboom has his thing, which is basically a bigger drum set.
Yeah, this is really good. Like the symbols and stuff.
Yeah, so it has the symbols and the other drums, and they're all like grass type things as well. And it seems like he has arms of grass with drumsticks as well. So he has like 6 arms with all drumsticks.
Yeah, this is a really, really cool one.
Next, and then we have Cinderace.
Kind of.
It's basically the same, but on a ball of fire.
Yeah, because that ball of fire is a soccer ball. It looks like a Digimon. This looks like a Digimon to me.
Yeah, it does. And the weirdest of the bunch, Inteleon.
Oh, this picture cut off the actual thing.
I didn't take off the full screenshot because it was you couldn't really see Inteleon on it, but Inteleon's Gigantamax is basically... Apparently, someone on Twitter mentioned this too. I thought he was just on a tower of water, but apparently that is his tail.
Oh.
So
I feel like that's kind of dumber because I thought it was just like the biggest part of the Gigantamax isn't even a part of him. It's just some water. And I kind of like that in a charming, dumb way. But if it's actually his tail, then...
Yeah, so there it is. Yeah, so basically, apparently that's his tail. So you could kind of see a curve, but as soon as it turns into a turret of water.
Yeah.
And he's just chilling on top of a tower with a sniper.
Yeah, you see that picture on the side?
Mm-hmm.
His tail coils around and he's laying on his tail. No, like there.
This one, yeah. So, yeah, he's basically just a sniper on top of a tower now. Inteleon overall is just like a really weird starter.
I don't like any of the starters, but based on the Gigantamax, 100% Rillaboom is the best.
Yeah, and I didn't even pick Rillaboom. I picked Inteleon as my starter. He's an interesting looking Gigantamax for sure.
What else is there?
Let me go back. And I think that was about it.
Oh.
Yeah. So we had the two areas. They didn't really show too much of what is to be done there, but I know there are two different separate wild areas with two separate sort of styles. So one is like wintry, one is like a desert / forest or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they're adding a bunch of different. They're adding a bunch of old legendaries, so all the Regis are coming back, which is awesome.
So do you think all the additions are worth 50% of the original game's asking price?
Well, looking at a third director's cut, then yeah. And if I'm buying the third director's cut, which is a sequel, it's basically the same thing, but this one has adding more legendaries to it.
So let's say all this in a single package would be... Actually, I have the price up right now. So yeah, the Pokemon Sword plus expansion pass in Canadian is $117. So base game plus expansion pass is $117, and that's just for the one. And then Shield is also $117.
When you're looking at compared to like DS, where the games were significantly cheaper because it was a portable, not a full-on console, where it was I think $60 for a game. So when you're paying for both of them, you're paying basically $120.
Yeah, because
for both the games.
The way I come, I've been playing Monster Hunter World that had an expansion pass that was about 50% of the asking price. Two biggest differences were Monster Hunter World has gone on discount, and you can get a bundle of both the base game and the expansion for about $79.99 Canadian. So the price of a regular ass game, and the expansion itself has borderline more content than the base game. Like I would say it's about equal to the base game, but it's 50% of the content. You know? And they're still updating the expansion pass for free. They're still adding stuff every month. When you come to this game, though, or when I come to this game, because I've come from that game where they're saying 50% of the asking price, but for people who want to get into it, we're not charging full price. And then if you did charge full, if you do have the original game already and you're getting expansion, that's 50% of the original game, you get just as much as half the content, if not more. Come to Pokemon, all right, so like 60 USD plus another 30 USD for the expansion. A year later, it's still 60 USD plus another $30 for the expansion. And if you want all the proper content that they actually spent the work on, multiply that purchase by 2. So $90 plus another $90 to get everything. Or you can just rely on randos on trade.
But yeah, I get what you're saying for sure. Like the pricing structure was always kind of weird because when they released the third director's cut, is basically the same game with a few additions to it. This one, in terms of that, is if you originally went with the Pokemon structure, this is a bit cheaper because you're not paying a full price again for a different game.
Because I feel like Pokemon and Game Freak are already getting a pass for doing the same game 2 different times because they've been doing it for so long. They already get it's an unfair pass that like Fire Emblem Fates didn't get, but they get a pass. But now they're pushing it. Now they're going too far with it.
The reason why they initially started was for sure because they wanted to open up trading. So it was never expected for someone to buy 2 games at once.
They should just drop the price 10 USD. They drop the price of the base game by 10 USD. It will make all the difference for a lot of people and myself, in my opinion. But they're not going to. Because when Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came out, regular Sun, regular Moon were dropped in price, right? Same should happen here.
We'll see when they come out. Maybe they will drop in price by that time.
Hey, if they drop it in price, I will be happy to say like, yeah, he proved me wrong. I was wrong, because that's great. That's great news.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing well by the consumer, but I don't see that happening. I don't have that faith in them. Yeah. So. Yeah. By the way, do you know which one you're gonna get?
What do you mean?
Sword expansion or shield expansion?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm maining Shield. So probably Shield.
You started with sword though, right?
Start with sword.
And you're gonna end up
I'm
with
gonna
shield.
trade to Shield when I start Shield, which will be relatively soon.
Although
Once
that could
Pokemon Home
change
opens
because
up.
who knows? There might be an exclusive legendary in one or the other.
Once Pokemon Home starts, then I'll be starting Shield because I could trade everything to it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
All right. Cool.
that's
Anything
gonna
else?
end off our Pokemon Direct.
Every time we talk about this damn game, it's just us two fighting. What the hell?
Two polar opinions. One guy who's a massive fan of it and has been playing it since the beginning, and
Like,
one guy
I
who
want to
kind of
play a
dropped off.
Pokemon game for so long, like for so badly, and I don't want Sword and Shield to be like my first one back. And I was so excited for Sword and Shield, and then like more news came out. I'm like, I'll still try and get it, and then like Charlotte broke the camel's back I was done, and now it's just getting worse in my opinion.
Anyways, that's gonna cover our talk about the Pokemon Direct. I don't even can't even call it coverage because it wasn't really.
I mean, we covered it. People know what it's about. This
Yeah.
is our opinions on it.
If you guys want to see any information or pictures and stuff that we were referencing, you can also hit up our Twitter at Day One Updates or our Instagram, which we haven't been posting to, but we will possibly start doing that.
Day One,
At Day One Updates as well.
Pre-order your Instagram content by subscribing now
By subscribing to Day One
or
Updates.
following now. What do you do on Instagram?
And if you guys want to give us your opinions on this expansion, if you guys want to roast
If
me or
you
roast
guys
Bazaar,
want to just disagree with Gurkmal and agree with me, and like, you know, I totally understand, you can reach us at dayone_updatecast@gmail.com.
yeah,
Day-
or you could message us on Twitter, whichever is easier.
Yeah, that works too. Our Twitter is also Day One Updates with an S,
Yeah.
plural, and YouTube Day One Update,
Day
no
One
S.
Update. Yeah.
We'll unify them as soon as we can.
As soon as we can.
It's hard.
As soon as we get the handles correct. But yeah, that's going to cover this. And if you guys did enjoy it, thank you very much. And if you guys really think you have friends or family that might enjoy it, please send it to them or share our podcast with them. And thank you guys for listening. We're extremely grateful for all, if you guys listen to this episode or any of our previous episodes. Thank you very much again, and we'll see you guys next time.